But we start with a startling report on grand corruption in Kenya that could jolt the political landscape.
President Uhuru Kenyatta's second term in office has been rocked by a series of corruption scandals, with taxpayers losing billions in stolen.
Get this, Kenya's public debt is now well above that 8 trillion shillings mark, according to data from the central bank.
Karibu Kenya, a country where wealth is a family affair run by the likes of Kenyattas, Mois, and other wealthy families. A place where employment and services are acquired through connections, as in lazima ujue mtu ama mtu anaweza jiona na watu. A country where impunity lies at the heart of Kenya's governance, with a few individuals making billions of shillings overnight, while many Kenyans continue to live in poverty, misery, and depression. Currently, at the making of this video, unga is retailing at 230 shillings, double the price of the same product last year. Our national debt is at 8.6 trillion shillings and is expected to rise to 10 trillion shillings next year. Hii inamaanisha that every child born today already owes around 200,000 shillings. We're in trouble, deep trouble. Our economy is down on its knees. Over 40% of youths are unemployed, and things will get even worse. But where did we and keep going wrong? Tulikosea wapi, and who is to blame? Let's find out. My name is Kahiu. On December 12, 1963, Kenya declared its independence from British rule. It was an emotional moment, not only for our forefathers but the entire nation, when Kenya became a self-governing country with Jomo Kenyatta as our first Prime Minister. Everyone was excited juu ilikuwa a new beginning, an opportunity to rewrite history. At last, after a lot of pain and bloodshed, we were free. But were we? Unfortunately, the country's leadership was passed on to a more selfish, oppressive, and greedy regime that was probably worse than the white colonialists. This first regime built the country on a foundation of grand theft of public property, land grabbing, nepotism, and tribalism. Less than 3 years after gaining our independence, the country witnessed its first ever grand corruption scandal, famously known as the Ngei Maize Scandal. Paul Ngei, the then Minister of Marketing and Cooperatives, allegedly interfered with the maize marketing board and smuggled the crop, causing a shortage in the country. Things got even worse under Moi's regime. Corruption was on a record high, with scandals such as the notorious Tukwel George hydroelectric power scandal and the Goldenberg scandal, reportedly costing the country 10% of its GDP. This was back in the 90s, when our GDP was around 15 billion US dollars. Hii inamaanisha around 1.5 billion US dollars haikuwa accounted for, yenye iko equivalent to 3 billion US dollars in today's value. This is worth around 351 billion shillings. In a leaked report on WikiLeaks, the secret report details how Kenyan state finances were laundered across the world to buy properties and companies in London, New York, South Africa, and even a 10,000-hectare ranch in Australia, all on behalf of top government officials. Under this regime emerged a new set of wealthy families, the likes of Biwots and Nyachais, reported to own properties and assets worth billions of shillings. Kenyans desperately needed change. The country needed a new leader to liberate the nation from the personalization of power, corruption, abuse of human rights, and to save our economy.
Mimi Mwai Kibaki naapa kwamba
on December 29th, 2002, Kibaki was sworn in as the third president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces of the Republic of Kenya at the historic Uhuru Park. After more than 5 million Kenyans elected him as their third president. With Kibaki, there was a lot of hope and excitement. As the leader of a broad coalition of opposition parties, Kibaki ushered in a new revolution. During his first term in office, Kibaki took steps to liberalize the economy, which triggered rapid economic growth. He improved infrastructure, revived the economy, repaired an out-of-control banking system, and introduced free primary school education, transforming the lives of millions of children. In December 2002, shortly after taking office, Kibaki made the following remarks on matters regarding corruption. Corruption will now cease to be a way of life in Kenya, and I call upon all those members of my government and public officers accustomed to corrupt practice to know and clearly understand that there will be no sacred cows under my government. However, shortly afterwards in 2003, the Anglo-leasing corruption scandal occurred under Kibaki's watch.
It is undoubtedly one of Kenya's most protracted corruption investigations. The Anglo-leasing scandal, which predates the 2002 election of President Mwai Kibaki, involves state contracts in which billions of shillings were awarded to non-existent firms for goods and services that never materialized.
It became evident that despite some political and institutional changes, corruption was and is still deeply rooted in Kenya.
I, Uhuru Kenyatta,
with the Uhuru government, things are even worse. Since 2013, the media has covered over 40 scandals involving corruption, which indicates that our country's corruption problem is getting worse. In the 2 terms of the current government, we've witnessed mega corruption scandals like the Eurobond scandal, which costed around 215 billion shillings, Aror and Kimwarer Dam scandal, 19.6 billion shillings, the National Youth Service scandal, 1.8 billion shillings, and the recent KEMSA COVID-19 scandal, 7.8 billion shillings. From all these examples, one thing is common. Kenyan leadership is not and has never been about the people. These leaders don't care about you or what you do. They don't care about this country, whether it's burning or the economy is crashing. To the ruling class, leadership is an opportunity for amassing wealth, while you, the common mwananchi, suffer in poverty, struggling to afford your daily needs. They sing and preach development to the people, but turn around and steal all that is meant for you and other Kenyans' well-being. I'm definitely not the first, and neither will I be the last to talk about these issues. The reality is that, regardless of what is said, Kenyans will continue to elect the same leaders engaging in dirty politics. Like always, they will be back on the crown with the usual promises and handouts to buy out your votes. As a consequence, Wakenya tutaendelea kuumia, youths will remain jobless, economy itaendelea kuharibika, and the common mwananchi will continue to prefer going abroad to seek opportunities because currently there are none. This is not the type of country that our forefathers shed blood and suffered for. This is not the type of country anyone would wish for. In whose hands are we safe? We desperately need change. In a month's time, we are going to hold our general elections. We must vote wisely and progressively. Starting from the MCA to the topmost presidential seats, we must demand accountability from all elected leaders. Regardless of who you support, Wajakoya, Raila, Ruto or Mwaure, it's important that we preach and emphasize peace.